Professor Bongo Adi, Professor of Economics at Lagos Business School, joins me right now. Professor Adi, good morning, and it's been quite a while.
Yeah, good morning, Nancy.
How?
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, Prof. Now, we're talking about student loan fund. Of course, you're in the educational sector, and I need to say it here that the student loan programs, of course, around the world were first introduced in the 1950s with countries like Norway, the Nordic countries, Norway, Sweden, Finland. We also have the United States and even Japan and Colombia. Um, Nigeria is also joining a few other African countries with this. Of course, we have South Africa, Tanzania, Namibia. Ghana, I think, and Rwanda have also student loan programs. Do you think that this is, an icing on the cake, as it were? Because this is the revised one. The former one had issues and they were worked on. Do you think this is a good step in the right direction?
Of course, anything that improves access to higher education is really good. Okay, so I think it's a step in the right direction, but it's just the beginning because it's not just about granting access. So I think the basic challenge or the biggest challenge in higher education today is not just accessibility, because if you think of it again, you know that government subsidizes hugely the especially the federal owned the public universities. The state also is at the subnational level subsidizes their own educational institutions, whether it's universities, polytechnics, or colleges of education. So I would say that the state has already taken much. And because of that, some people argue that lack of competitiveness, or what we call, program competitiveness in the higher institution, might be attributable to this level of government sponsorship of the educational sector. So there isn't that embedded incentive for the actors in the system, the managers and the professors to really come out in their best to compete for grants and carry out industry relevant research simply because they receive subvention from the government. So that's been the argument in some quarters. But governments are also adding to that by complementing, student finances and providing loans. We definitely, fill the gap when it comes to accessibility. But I don't think that accessibility is just the biggest problem in Nigeria's education. I think we have to think of quality and relevance. So that's where the real challenge is. So loan scheme introduction is a step in the right direction on the one side, but then how do we improve accessibility? I mean, how do we improve efficiency, competitiveness, and skill and industry relevance of the program that are taught in school? I think that's the big elephant in the room. And you know that, again, why government is doing this. ASU is on the other day, the other day, the non-academic staff of the tertiary educational institutions are threatening for another round of industrial showdown with the government. And then ASU also is gearing for another one because most of their demands have not been met. Lecturers are underpaid. Professors in Nigeria are the poorest globally. So it's not just about giving students more money to pay for school fees. So what's the quality of what they are receiving when the people, the suppliers of the knowledge are completely disincentivized?
This loan fund is somehow shifting the burden from government to students, as it were. If we take a look at, Prof, I don't know if you looked at the loan fund, that's the student loan bill, now a law, very critically. We're taking a look at the parents, of course, people within the cadre that earn less than perhaps 500,000 naira a year. They will need to provide tax clearance. They will need to provide guarantors of a certain caliber and all of that. Do you see this as perhaps hindering the accessibility? Because these are people that are the have-nots, as it were. Will they have access to those conditions to have access to higher education?
I think that's the big problem. so whenever you're addressing the bottom of the pyramid,
Mm-hmm.
you are bound to encounter such problems. And that's part of the reason why many of the micro schemes to support micro and small businesses and all of that, have not worked. Because it's really difficult, for those cadre of the society to really turn around incomes and all of that and be buoyant enough to take care of such responsibilities. So I understand why government has to put in those measures because they also want to ensure that the loans, because that's what they are repaid at the end of the day to ensure sustainability. But then, but the dilemma here is that the parents may not be able to afford all of those things. So I don't know if there is any concession to be given to them, but the way it is, it appears that by the time the gets able to assemble all those requirements, maybe they may not be able to do that, or if they do it, it might be very stringent conditions. So that will limit the number of people that may have access to that. So, which again will somehow undercut the government's intention. So I don't know how that's going to play out, but I think it's a really big challenge. Okay, but let's not forget, So what I want to emphasize is that there is always this dilemma. There's a trade-off
Mm.
between affordability
Yeah.
and quality in the education system. So as I mentioned earlier, affordability isn't a big problem because when you consider what people pay in the public schools versus what they pay in the private schools, private universities, there's a whole world of difference.
Mm.
Okay, and some people feel that the pricing in educational pricing is completely beyond market rationality.
Mm.
In the sense that it doesn't really make it. If you are to provide education at that level, at that price, it will not ever function. You will never get anything of quality.
Mm.
I think that has also, demeaned the quality of what people get from public universities.
Mm.
And the challenge is how to remove those subventions and allow the university to charge maybe something quality reflective fees. But that's, again, a very big problem. So I think that while government is addressing this, now looking at it, the stringent conditions they provided, that I doubt many parents who live at that level of income may assess, okay, limit what this loan may achieve. So, meaning that government could have done more by addressing the concerns of professors, lecturers, non-academic staff of universities, so that we can have some sort of predictability in the school calendar, and also ensure competitiveness and quality standards in that system.
Okay, Prof.
So that's the very challenge here.
Okay, Prof. Let me take you on this final question because I know we'll have a lot to speak about, but I will need us to take a look at this question, which is, I mentioned countries earlier that have student loan programs. Um, Countries like, even it started in the 50s, like I mentioned, Norway, Sweden, New Zealand, Germany, and all of that. And if you look at these countries have superb higher education. Even Nigerians here, we send our children abroad to those countries to study. So how will you juxtapose that with the quality and access as against the burden on government? In the United States, President Biden, I think was it last year or early this year, was it this year, wrote off $138 billion in student loans. I was looking at the student loan debt for the US government as of last year, $1.7 trillion debt hanging on the government for student loans. So how do you justify that these are countries too that have good higher education, other migrants are going there to study, a huge debt on government, and what Nigeria is trying to do. So what lessons and implications can we learn from these categories of countries?
Okay, so we have to be talking about and thinking of sequencing. Well, which came first? Is it the student loans, or is it those incentives that guaranteed quality and competitiveness in the higher educational system? Now, let me just make this clear as well, because here there's always the danger of having partial data and analyzing partial data. Now, you see, in the educational system, when people graduate from school, there's what we call the positive externality of education, which you can't even quantify because it far outweighs the cost of going to school. The society benefits from that. The government benefits immensely from that. Now, not just that people become better citizens, there is also what you call the global public goods. Okay, public goods such that you can't really, so there is no market incentive to produce them. Now, when people graduate from school, the universities are creators of knowledge. They are pushing the boundaries of innovation. So they're coming up with new products, new ideas, new ways of doing things that scale up productivity, that actually generates a huge amount of taxes for the government. So meaning that whatever government in those countries give us in student loans, the more than make up for it by the output of those students when they graduate.
I
So think of
understand that.
students who graduate
Yeah.
from school, departments that have, are able to create patents. Okay, when they register those patents, they pay tax to government. Okay, let's take Silicon Valley in California. California Caltech is one of the most advanced, most reputable institutes of technology in the world. So, in fact, some people argue that why you have Silicon Valley is because they are taking up from this, they're taking up the spillovers
Okay.
from Caltech. So the research, commercialization of research, commercialization of innovation that happen in those schools, okay, is more than enough to accommodate all manner of loans that government may
Okay.
give.
Okay. I think
Okay,
I
so
understand
knowledge
you,
is
Prof.
used
Yes.
exactly. So in that case, the government has no issues giving out student loans because they really reap the benefits
Yeah.
when students graduate and begin
They
to
get
create new knowledge,
jobs and
new
they
stuff,
pay
and
taxes.
contribute to the economy and pay a huge amount of taxes. So
Okay.
it's an investment for government. In fact, student loan is an investment for government in those countries.
Okay.
But
Prof.
let's come back here.
Okay.
Yes.
Prof, I think we will leave this conversation for now. I will have you on another day. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.